This is DS2, which is Adam Holloway and Yaniv Peer.
Hey guys. So, figuring out the blue, there we go. Okay, so basically, my name's Yaniv Peer, and along with Adam Holloway, we run DS2, which is focused on biodigital craft. And I'd like to start off slightly differently today, with the idea being to try to sort of go through a quick thoughts exercise as a way of trying to get you to understand what our agenda actually is. So I'd like you to imagine it's 10 years from now, and you're all running your successful practices. But one day you get, I've got some raised eyebrows there, but you will do. And one day you get a phone call from the director of the London Zoo, and he tells you that you're about to receive a shipment of some very rare butterflies, fish, and frogs. And he would like you to design the enclosure of that particular habitat. So what's your first thought likely to be? Well, it's likely to be along the lines of, how do I construct that habitat? And that means knowing something about their biological and social needs, knowing about the characteristics of their habitat, like the temperature, humidity, local flora and fauna, where they source their water from, their food from. And the reason you would want to be thinking about that is because if you don't design, construct, and maintain that habitat properly, that basically means that the organisms will die. And your measure of success will be their health, their reproduction rate, general fitness, and mental well-being. Now, it's actually quite amazing to us how little people think about this when they are designing cities, especially when we know that basically cities, neighborhoods, and buildings are in fact human habitats. And this is what we focus on in DS2. We bring together the analytical power of parametric design, digital craft, and biomimicry. And the idea is to offer transformative design solutions that will able to move us from the industrial age to the ecological age through truly transformative ideas. Now, from the urban scale really all the way down to the pavilion, we're going to explore how biodigital craft allows us to design circular systems, how it allows us to increase resource efficiency, how it is that we can design for a solar economy, and perhaps most importantly, how it is that we design for human health and well-being. And these are really the challenges that define our age. Now, I've been working with Adam for quite some time, being in collaboration, so I know firsthand of his exceptional parametric design skills. And he's put that to good use. He set up a practice very recently called Adam Holloway Architects. And we believe that this is actually the world's largest double curved paper structure, which was just an exhibition recently. Where was it?
UKCF Culture in Hull.
Now, as for myself, I'm an associate at Exploration Architecture, where we focus on biophilic and biomimetic design principles. And it's a way of offering design ideas that really try to move us to the next age. So the projects that I've led recently for the company have been the biomimetic office building in Zurich, the Nagpur Zero Waste Textiles Factory, trying to literally have a textiles factory with no waste, and the most recently a sort of topologically optimized pavilion proposal for the Dubai 2020 Expo. Literally, that's hot off the press. We submitted that last night. In addition, I work with the Cambridge Institute for Sustainable Learning. So the idea there is to try and teach and consult with business leaders on why it is that sustainability principles are going to increase their triple bottom lines. That's people, planet, and profit in that order. Now, as a way of showing you how all these ideas come together, I'll quickly run you through a couple of the projects that we've been working on. So the first of which is known as the Nexus Farms project. It's a company we just co-founded recently, and it starts really in an area called Wakefield, just south of Leeds. And in this area, a guy called Graham Wiles set up an initiative known as the ABLE project. And the idea was to effectively try and get young adults with learning difficulties back into the working environment. So Graham saw an opportunity in the waste cardboard being produced by the local shops and restaurants. So along with his colleagues, he went there, convinced them to pay him to collect it and take it away, instead of throwing it to commercial waste. Now, once collected, they shredded up the cardboard and sold it on to equestrian centres as horse bedding. Then once soiled, they were paid again to collect it, and they fed it into wormery composting systems which produced two sources of revenue. Compost, which they sold off to farming, and additional worms, which they fed to Siberian sturgeon, which produced caviar, which they then sold back to the restaurant at a nice tidy profit. So they transformed a very linear process into a circular process, and adding significantly more value along the way. Now, Graham and his team have continued to add more and more elements to the system, turning waste streams into value. And there's a real sense with this project that just as natural systems tend to increase in diversity and resilience over time, that so too this project can do. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Nexus Farms project. Essentially trying to, for the first time, bring together the cycles of waste, food, energy and water all under one roof, very closely resembling that of a natural ecosystem. So in there we're going to have a restaurant with inside a productive greenhouse. We're going to have microscale anaerobic digestion that's going to provide heat and power for the building, as well as liquid fertilizer that will go into the greenhouse for the hydroponics. We'll be using water-based treatments based on John Todd's living machine that essentially use plants and microbes to turn black and grey water back into potable water. We'll also be including fish farm that will be fed from waste scraps from the kitchen, again providing a source of food back to the restaurant. Wormery composting system. And finally, we'll be adding in a coffee shop whose waste grain will be used as a substrate for growing oyster mushrooms on. And there's a great shop actually that's our partner in Elephant and Castle, sorry. You should go and check this out, which is actually happening. Now, just for a little bit of fun, we decided to try and pick a site to sort of propose the project on. And if any of you know London, you'll know this absolute hole. This is basically, essentially, Old Street Roundabout. And we found that just a little bit of imagination and replanning, we could turn a space that was once dominated by traffic into one that was open for people to explore the ideas of urban food cycles. Now, the second project that we're going to go through is known as the Designing with Nature tables. Now, it was back in late 2013 where the Architecture Foundation approached exploration architecture to try and put on a showcase of their work. Now, it was very exciting, but the brief was quite challenging. We had to design an exhibition table that was as exciting as the elements we were putting on there. So, being architects, we said, well, why don't we make life very difficult for ourselves? And we said, why don't we 3D print the entire exhibition? And we did that not just because we wanted it to explore with cool technology, but actually because we felt that that was the only way that we could design a beautiful set of tables that was cost-effective, resource-efficient, espoused our biomimetic ideals. Actually, most importantly, would be as important as the projects that we're actually showcasing. So we began by looking to nature for highly optimized structures like the bird skulls and the cuttlefish bone. And essentially the reason for that was because they're highly resource efficient. They're placing the material exactly where it's required. But we needed something that wasn't just resource efficient, but had a large span as well. So then we looked at the giant Amazon water lily. And I promise that no people were hurt in the making of these photographs. But what this does show is actually quite how incredibly strong the giant Amazon water lily is. And we were very kindly donated a specimen from Kew Royal Botanical Gardens. And when we explored it, actually what we found was that all the cells in the center, all the way out to the outside, were around 50 centimeters squared. And all the branches that were bifurcating would bifurcate everything 2 to 3 cells. So this phenomenon is known as something as Murray's Law. And effectively, it's a mathematical principle that basically dictates all branching vessels in biology, from your lungs to respiratory systems to anything that you can imagine. So we decided to turn this into an algorithm. And essentially, sorry, that's Murray's Law, got to flip. So basically, we decided to turn it into an algorithm. So we blended basically the principles of Murray's Law with a program known as Soft-Kill Option. It's a topological optimization program. And effectively what that means is it does something very similar to nature in that it essentially places materials where there are high concentrations of stress and then removes it where there isn't any. And it's a very similar process to the way in which your bones calcify and then recalcify in different locations. And what we found was that essentially we could design a set of tables that use an absolute minimum of material and 3D print those. At the end of their life cycle, they're printed with PLA and they can essentially be composted. They only weigh 2.3 kilograms and they could take many times their own body weight. So we were quite excited with the results. And essentially what it means is that all of these tables use 1/1000th of the material by volume to all of their Plymouth counterparts, which are at the back there. So all of this is to say that essentially by utilizing computational design principles and looking to nature for ideas, we can actually create radical new resources. That's
Okay, so I'm going to go through a bit of the structure of the year and some examples from last year of student work, and I'm going to talk a bit more about the paper project that you did for the beginning. So with the rise of computational design and new digital fabrication technologies, the creative industries are becoming an evolving ecosystem of codes and tools. giving birth to a maker movement, which is enabling young designers to work with each other and other professionals and machines directly to materialize their ideas. Design, engineering, and fabrication processes are merging and giving birth to a new kind of polymath role for the architect, who straddles now multiple disciplines in the synthesis of their design projects. We are witnessing a worldwide revolution in which creative output has no precedent. This year, DS2 is going to envisage creative collaborations with the seeds of this revolution in the MIT Fab Labs, which are distributed across the world. These are hubs of creative technologies, which bring together different professions and interests within the needs and culture of a specific city. We pursue an open brief in DS2, and we work to harness this network of we're going to work to harness this network of creatives and instrumentalize the maker movement to promote a revolutionary and systemic ecological strategy in the form of site-specific urban interventions. And I'll show you a few of those examples from last year. Our unit trip will be to a local Fab Lab at Grimstag Farm in Buckinghamshire, where the students will immerse themselves in the maker culture. Grimstag Farm is a fabrication laboratory housed in a refurbished farm in Buckinghamshire, directed by artist and architect Juan Lee. It focuses on research at the intersection of material science, computational design, and digital fabrication. And most of the research at the farm is done through prototyping, mass prototyping, and large-scale landscape interventions in the surrounding countryside. At Grimstag Farm, the students will have access to many cutting-edge digital fabrication tools, from laser cutters, CNC milling machines, through to kilns and a large 6-axis